This episode of the Mistress Carrie podcast is sponsored by Royal Symbols. At Royal Symbols, they're taking the 400-year-old tradition of symbol making into the future. If you can think it, they can make it. And whether you play the drums in your basement or on the world's biggest stages, they can help you craft your sound. Utilizing their combined 50 years of cymbal sound expertise, they can take your sound ideas and create an instrument that you'll love. Within the lines of Royal Symbols, it includes the custom-made Cymbal Craftsman cymbals. They offer a full range of sound colors, and they can also modify your current cymbals to better fit your needs. Royal Symbols was born out of the need to create the best sounding instruments for drummers who have a wide range of sound needs. Over the past few decades, owners Paul Francis and Sarah Hagen have worked together along with the world's greatest drummers to create many of the modern cymbal sounds that you hear in live music and on countless recordings. And they're continuing to do this into the future with Royal Symbols. Check them out online at royalsymbols.com.
Hey, what's up? This is Sully from Godsmack. Strap on those boots, baby, because you are now in the trenches of the war room with the one and only Mistress Carrie right here on the Mistress Carrie podcast.
What's up? This is Joe Rogan, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Her hair so lovely. Pretty eyes.
Hey, this is Brent from Shinedown, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie. Hey, Carrie, go put your bra on, girl.
Hey, this is Steven Tyler, and you be listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
What's up? This is Aaron from Stain, and you're listening to Mistress Carrie.
Hi, everybody. This is Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters, and you're listening to the one, the only Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is David from the band Disturbed, and you're listening to the baddest bitch in Boston, Mistress Carrie.
Hi, Bruce Dickinson here from Iron Maiden. Yes, indeed, Miss Whiplash herself, Mrs. Carrie, is here to unchain your brain.
Hi, this is Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. You're listening to Mistress Carrie.
This is Dennis Leary. You are listening to my favorite, Mistress Carrie.
Hey, this is Corey from Stone Sour, and you're listening to, you have the privilege of listening to Mistress Carrie. Oh, God. Oh, yeah.
Hey, it's Mistress Carrie, reporting for duty from MCHQ for episode 151 of the Mistress Carrie podcast. And before we get to this week's guest, Johnny Christ from Avenged Sevenfold, I want to let you know what's new in the online shop at mistresscarrie.com. Everybody's got that special place in their house where they like to entertain and bring their friends over and have a drink. I call mine the War Room. You can watch my video show, Cocktails in the War Room, every Tuesday night at 8:30 Eastern on my official Facebook page. And if you want to dress up your war room, then you need the set of 4 slate coasters with the Cocktails in the War Room logo that are new in the shop. Don't let your friends ruin your bar with drink circles. Grab a set of Cocktails in the War Room slate coasters that are veteran made in Massachusetts in the online shop at mistresscarrie.com. My guest this week also has a show from his home bar. It's called Drinks with Johnny. Johnny Christ is the bass player from Avenged Sevenfold. The band has a brand new album coming out called Life is But a Dream on June 2nd, and a massive U.S. tour with AlexisOnFire kicking off this summer. You'll be able to see him at the Xfinity Center in Mansfield, Massachusetts on July 19th. Johnny and I talked about his podcast, Drinks with Johnny. We also talked about the new album, the upcoming tour, time during COVID to stay home and focus on being a dad. We also talked about his beloved Lakers and the rivalry with my beloved Celtics. We talked about the Stanley Cup, his fellow bass players, what it was like to join Avenged Sevenfold, and so much more. So allow me to introduce you to Johnny Christ from Avenged Sevenfold. I'm recording you fumbling around your studio, Johnny.
I love that. I'm recording my audio for you right now.
I appreciate that.
How you doing today?
I am really good. Thank you so much for doing this.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
I'm totally digging the fact that you do a show from a bar, because I have a video show that I do from a bar as well. It's the best thing ever.
Oh, it's awesome. This is actually my bar at my house. That's why I started doing it here. So this is upstairs, it's a lot of fun. It's something I started a few years ago and with a couple of buddies, and it's a nice little project for us all we all have other main income stuff, but this is something fun for us to do together.
I started a show in the room with my bar too. It's called Cocktails in the War Room, because that's the room that I call the bar.
Oh, awesome. We gotta do like a simulcast or something at some point.
I would love to do that. That would be a blast. We do booze tastings, talk about music, bring in guests. Basically it's an excuse to work and drink at the same time.
Both my jobs do that. It's fantastic.
Well, I wanted to talk to you about so much stuff because I feel like all of our lives, especially the music business, got put on pause for a while. And now the world is finally like thawed back out again, and we're seeing bands we haven't seen out on the road in a few years. How did you handle the craziness of the last few years? Was it a creative time for you? Did you love being home, or was it just really mentally difficult?
I think it was all of those things, to be honest. I think for a lot of people, I mean, I think going through a pandemic and life changes in general definitely throw you some challenges that you have to navigate. And in those, you're going to run all those gamuts of emotions that you just described, right? Part of me, as a personal note for me, but I was able to be home for the last 5 years with my new son, who's only 6 now. So silver lining there with it is I was there every day for his formidable years, really. I mean, his early impressionable years, at least. And when I think that bond that I get out of that, being the stay-at-home dad in a matter of speaking that I was, dropping him off, taking him to all the sports, everything like that, that'll get that bond and show him just how much he means to me, later on in life when he thinks about it. So that part I was happy to be home for. Absolutely. As far as being creative goes, we wrote a record over the last 5 years while we were doing it, and pretty excited about the outcome that we got. And honestly, I've said this in other interviews too, like Matt and Brian really kind of took the reins on this record. I mean, we all collaborate as things go, but they really kind of took the reins on this one because they had this vision for everything. And so while they're doing that, I'm coming in every once in a while and listening in and helping out with a few things here and there, maybe arrangements, maybe just an opinion on the song, something as simple as that for a while. This is all early on. That's when I started this podcast that we were just talking about. So I found a new creative outlet, to be honest, that was outside of music. And a lot of people might not think, I'm sure you would disagree with these people, but people might not think that you could be creative in a podcast or something like that. Like it's just a conversation, and it couldn't be further from the truth in my eyes. Like you get out there, you have to find a way to make it, I don't know, at least slightly different than the other podcasts. You have to, you also put in your own style. You have to learn your own style. There's an art to it when you're talking to people who you've never met before. I mean, it's a whole thing that I had to learn. And it took me a few years, and I'm still learning, but I enjoy it. It's creative in that sense. I have a good crew, but I'm learning how to use all the equipment. And every time I learn one piece of equipment, I'm like, oh, this one sounds even cooler. It looks even cooler. Now I got to go buy that new toy and play with it. So it's a lot of fun. It's something that I'll continue to do. So that's where like the creative part got in. And then lastly, that last emotion you described, absolutely true. Just like it was hard mentally. It was hard mentally to go from, playing in front of hundreds of thousands of people on that last European tour that we did, and coming home, and for the first year or so, it's kind of like, this is normal. This is more par for the course. We usually come off the road and we're home for a while doing things, but then a year and a half becomes 2.5 years, becomes 3, 4, and then like by then, you start questioning your identity. I mean, this is something I've done for 20 years of my life, and now 5 of them I haven't been able to do, and it's kind of it's the one thing in my life that I'm confident in, that I'm really good at, is going up on stage and doing that. So when you're not able to do that, of course, you start to question your identity and stuff. And what does this mean for, everything? And then you go through some fun changes and talk to your therapist and read some books, and then, maybe try some mushrooms and get off the grid for a while. and just try and, break down the ego all the way down, get rid of it so that, you really can answer those questions that I think we all ask ourselves. But I would guess, and I guess it's more so for me, but I would guess other people feel the same way, or a lot of other people feel the same way. It's just like this time that we all globally felt a couple of years ago and are still building back from, has definitely made us all introspective at some point and really think about like what is important here in my life, and that's an individual question, of course. And I think, I'd be lying if I didn't say that I went through all that, because I did. I just explained to you everything that I went through there.
Yeah, it definitely made people really look at where they are in their life, I think. That's a shared experience that, like, coming out of it, you had the ability to kind of make life the way that you wanted and really kind of prioritize what you want to do in your life and make the rest of your life exactly the way you want it. For me, I spent my entire career on the radio, which is a completely different skill set. And I love how you're talking about discovering the art of podcasting, because the more bands that I talk to and the band members have podcasts, it's so funny to hear you guys' perspective of doing my job, because usually you're on the receiving end of my questions. How was that for you to turn the mic around and have to interview other people?
Well, it gave me a new respect for people in your profession. I'll say that much. It was definitely, it was a learning curve. I go back and listen or watch to our first few episodes and stuff. And it's like, as the kids say, it's pretty cringe, and it's like, oh, because you have to be able to develop a flow, as you know. And I think for me doing that, turning it around, I figured, oh, dude, this will be easy. I'm just talking to my friends, because that was the original idea. I was just going to have friends from other bands come over to the house, make a cocktail, and just shoot the shit. I quickly realized that was getting too long. It just wasn't the right format. And you just trial and error. And of course, this being a side gig for me, I just went for it. I didn't map it all out and make sure everything was like, well, let's try this. Let's try this. Yeah, just send it. Let's try. Let's go. And so, but over the time you start to evolve into, this art and this profession. It's like, you guys may always make it seem so easy, to host a conversation. It's not just, a lot of people would think, oh, how do you get the questions out of them? And how do you get them to go deep? It's like, you don't. You take what you're given and you just kind of play with it, and you got to be able to work your own flow into it. And I think I've hit my stride in the last season that we released, and then we just started season 5 of Drinks with Johnny. So it's now we're completely changing the format. I think I'm going to change the format every season. Like I do with music. Every album is going to be completely different. So why not have my Drinks with Johnny podcast be something different every time? With this one, very more conversational. Guests can stop in for anywhere as 15 minutes to 2 hours, 3 hours. I don't care. But 15 minutes, you stop in, we'll have a topic of discussion where, I got my boys, Brandon and Sam, co-hosting with me now, so that it's very much just a flowing conversation. We're just having a good time with it. And we'll have fun topics or some serious ones. We've been talking a lot about basketball because I'm a huge Lakers fan, so that's been one of the topics. And then
be careful, you're in Celtics town right now. Be careful.
I love it. I love that rivalry.
Flea, between the two of you, Jesus.
Oh, bass players love the Lakers. I don't know what to tell you,
man. Hey,
well, we're from Southern California.
I know you get the pass. Look. The only thing coming from a massive sports town that you can hope is that if you're going to be a sports fan, that you support your team when they suck and when they're good, and that you're passionate about it. And I think Lakers fans and Celtics fans at least have that mutual respect where it's like, you're in regardless, you're wearing the colors, and don't take the purple hair as support for the Lakers either.
Oh yeah, that you just need some gold glasses.
Not happening, bro.
Yeah.
It's not
I'll send you a pair of gold Ray-Bans.
Not happening ever.
Hey, that's what we're gonna have to do. If by some chance the Celtics and Lakers meet in this finals, we got to have you on the show.
100%.
We got to have do something and talk some smack, because I'm about to be doing that with Zach Myers right now of Shinedown.
Love him.
He's coming on the show because he's a big Memphis Grizzlies
and
fan,
an obnoxious Grizzlies fan.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to rip into him.
Yeah.
I can't wait. It's going to be so much fun. Yeah,
I lost a bet with Zach Wild once at Ozfest years ago over a Sox-Yankees game.
Oh.
And I had to introduce him in a fucking Jeter's jersey and got booed by my own fans because I had pinstripes on in Boston.
That is rad. That's
Still
such a good
traumatized by it.
What was the theory if you had, what were you going to get if you'd won that bet?
He had to wear a Sox shirt during the performance.
During the whole performance too.
Oh,
huh?
yeah. We went full on. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a rad bet.
We actually went to the game together, and it was Sox-Yankees at Fenway, and me and Zach sat behind home plate, and this was back when he was crazy Zach, not juicing Zach. Like, this was back when he was drinking, not healthy. And he bought the whole section hot dogs at Fenway to make them not hate him for cheering for the Yankees at Fenway Park.
Wow. Did it work, or did they still hate him?
Word got, because those are the expensive seats. So all the bankers behind home plate, it's like the front row at the Lakers game, right?
Right.
When they all heard he was Ozzy's guitar player, then they all wanted to take pictures with him. But they still booed him when he cheered for the Yankees. So if you want to do a whole thing over Yankees, over Celtics, Lakers, I'm in.
Absolutely. If we'll keep our fingers crossed, we meet in the finals. I think it'd be fun for everybody. I mean, everyone knows what that rivalry is.
Hell yeah.
And you know, they've done documentaries time over and time. So even if you're not from one of these areas, I'm sure you understand what's going on.
And we got the Bruins in the playoffs right now too. So
your Bruins are just gonna run rickshaw all over everyone. Like that. I'm a Kings fan too, and they pulled off a game one win the other night that I wasn't expecting. So I was like, okay, let's go. I doubt we'll see Bruins Kings, but I don't know.
I have a friend that actually works for the Kings, but he's from here. And when they won the cup, he got to bring the cup home. So I got to drink out of it because the Kings won it, not because the Bruins won it that year. Champagne tastes great out of the Stanley Cup.
I hope to one day find out too. Yeah, I mean, Shadows is friends with Kopitar, so we're hopefully get something that, you know, if they win. I don't know. We'll see.
You bring up Flea and playing bass, and I want to ask you this question. I read a great quote from Geddy Lee, who said that people don't grow up wanting to play the bass. They play guitar, and then at some point you join a band, and the other band members vote you into playing the bass. That's what Geddy Lee said. The only bass player that ever said that was wrong was Doug Pinnick from King's X, he told me. So is that true for you?
It was not true for me.
No, you started playing the bass?
I started playing the bass. Yeah. I mean, I dabbled with the old nylon guitar of my father's in the house before, and like the keyboard and stuff. But when I really started to learn how to play an instrument, it was always bass. I mean, I guess I was technically voted in because none of us had picked up an instrument yet. In my very first band with my buddy, he already had the drum kit, so that was done, like his dad's drum kit. And like, you know, picking up for the first time, you're not going to go spend the money on a real drum kit when dad's got one in the attic. Other kid was going to play the keyboards that he had. This band never actually happened. It was just like, and then I decided I wanted to play bass. It was listening to Les Claypool on MTV do Wynonna's Big Brown Beaver. That sound of it, I didn't even know it was bass at the time, right? And just that sound, I was like, I looked into it a little bit more. I was like, oh, that's what that instrument is making that noise. That's pretty cool. I could get into that, and from there it spawned into other things, and bassists that I had grown up listening to that day and didn't realize I was listening to the bass so closely. It's like Cliff Burton and stuff. I didn't know that Cliff Burton was all those distorted guitar parts, or what I thought they were, like For Whom the Bell Tolls. I was like, oh, that's a different distortion they use there. It's like, no, it's because the bass player is doing that lead line. And it's like, oh, okay. It all started to make sense. I think, and then after that, once I understood that there was so much you could do with the bass that, you know, if you're if you're not into music, I don't expect anyone to know it or even pay attention to the bass. Like it's just not. You're supposed to feel it in a lot of ways.
Well, Billy Sheehan told me, because I asked him, legendary rock bass player, to explain the role of the instrument in the band, and he went into this totally, in-depth description about how you're what ties the drums and the guitar together. Right. That if the bass isn't there, the music doesn't make sense. So
yeah, I would say for the most part, I mean, there's a lot of music that can go without it. I mean, you tune things differently. You could have just a guitar and drums, but it doesn't sound the same, and you might not. Someone might not know what's missing, but you'll know something's missing. You know what I mean? Like a layman. But yeah, I think I can't expand more than the great Billy Sheehan. He knows more about bass than I do. But yeah, I think he's right. It absolutely is the glue between those two, especially in rock music. And it's also, it helps hold down that percussive side of this music, I think, the groove. I mean, it's very, it's fun to lock in on the kick of Brooks Wackerman, but it's also fun to play off of it too and find really fun ways to move around with the groove. And that's really where bass lives. And for me, it was like early on, I didn't understand all these things. It takes time, right? But one thing that I was surprised with myself is I would talk to other people and who weren't musicians, they couldn't depict what instrument was anything. And like I said, I couldn't early on either. But as time goes on, I find myself when I'm listening to a new band, I'm listening to new music, like that's the first thing I hear. Like I'm not even trying. I'm just like, which isn't common for people who, I bet you it's common for bass players. Outside of bass players, I guarantee that's not the case.
Bass players are definitely their own animal. That's for sure.
Yes, this is true.
You're one of the people that I've had on the show. I always say that when it comes to high school, there are very few decisions I made back then that I still stand by. And you are an example of a musician that made a decision in high school that turned out to be probably the best decision you've ever made in your life. That's not common.
No, it's not. And I want to go out and tell my son that, when he turns 18, but we'll see what kind of kid he is. Yeah. I mean, I had just turned 18 years old when I went on my first 2-week tour with the rest of the boys. I grew up with them, and I jammed with Jimmy in the garage after their rehearsals and stuff. And we were in a van, and there was a co-headlining tour with Atreyu going up the West Coast. And, I ran into Val, my sister and Matt's wife now. And she was like, yeah, we might not have a bassist for this next 2 weeks we got coming up. And I was like, well, if you guys need someone to fill in, I'll do it for free. I'd like the experience because I want to be, I want to do the same thing you guys are doing. But, I'm never expecting that I would join them as well. I just was like, I'd like the experience. It'd be good for me to get out there, and I could just take a couple of weeks off from school. At the end of it, the boys asked me if I wanted to join the band. And after those 2 weeks, I was like, I was greener than green. I did not play great shows. So the fact that they still wanted me around, I was like, this could be really cool. Like, I was breaking strings all the time, bass strings, like I was just nervous.
You can tow a truck with a bass string.
Yeah, exactly. And I was managing to break them. So, several, like I was not ready for a tour alive. I'd only played a handful of backyards and talent shows to this date, and then I was, it wasn't like they were massive shows, but they were real shows, like a couple hundred kids in the crowd, so long story long there, I joined that. I of course say yes. And then we start writing Raking the Fallen, and the rest was history.
I just talked to Lance from Ashes to New last week, and we were getting down into the weeds about the concept of songwriting. And I asked him to give me some examples of some songwriters that he really looked up to. And one of the bands that he noted was Avenged Sevenfold. And nice. You guys are in this position now where you're not the new guys on the block anymore, that there's a whole generation of rock bands growing up listening to Avenged Sevenfold the way you grew up listening to Metallica and Primus. That's got to be a little weird that you guys have been around long enough now that you're becoming the inspiration instead of the inspirees. or the inspired.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're absolutely. That goes back to, I think, the very beginning of this conversation with the pandemic and stuff, and realizing that. I mean, it's kind of going through like, I hate to use this term, but it's like kind of like going through like a midlife crisis. You kind of realize, oh, but it's good because you find out what the things that are important, as we talked about before. It's an honor to have been able to actually look back, be introspective, and see what we've been able to do in the last 20 years of our career. Because when you're down and in it, blinders are on. I got nothing else to do, but this is my purpose. This is my goal. And I'm focused on that. There's nothing else. Age doesn't mean a thing. And then when you actually take a step back and look at what you have accomplished, and I did that personally over the last few years. And yeah, it's flattering, and you go like, oh wow, I really have done like a lot. If you're always chasing something, you're not really looking at that as often. Of course, you stop for a second here and there to celebrate, but you're not like really introspectively looking at it and going like, wow, like that's kind of a cool thing.
I'll ask you the same question that I asked him. It's a songwriting question, so this isn't a favorite music question. Okay. Can you give me an example of a song that you think is so well crafted that it's a perfect example of songwriting, and that you covet it and say, oh man, I wish I wrote that song? But then you got to break it down and tell me why. And it can be any artist, any genre.
Man, there's so many. That's so tough. Because I could just give an example, but it's not going to, it's not the end all be all. And it's probably a little bit of a Cosby sweater, but
Cosby sweater.
I don't know if you could say Cosby sweater anymore, by the way. Like Jack Black said it on High Fidelity, but
it's just funny because it's such a generational reference now.
Oh yeah, totally.
That there's a whole generation of kids that only know Cosby as a rapist, and we remember sitting around the TV watching him on Thursday nights on TV.
Yeah, oh, so funny. So it's a little bit of a cop out, is what I mean to say for all you youngsters that went around for that. It's a bit of a cop out, but I mean, Queen and Bohemian Rhapsody. I mean, that song, it takes you on such a journey. Just even starting with, let's just start with the structure. You want me to break it down a little bit? The structure of the song is so unique that when you listen to it, you think it's this long 10-minute song because it takes you through such a journey and such a path. When you look back, it's only been about 4.5 minutes. It's like, wait a minute. Because it may and that's not that long of a song, in my opinion, for how much it goes around and has so many extreme changes, but are seamless, right? You start in with you got like the rock parts, you got the choir parts, you got the piano parts, and these are 3 different sections. It's you got the ballad. It starts out as a ballad, and then it gets into all these things. I mean, it's a musical masterpiece for songwriting. And then let's not even get into the melodies on top of everything, and not just the structure, the melodies, the choir work that they recorded themselves on top of it. I mean, it's a perfectly written song, in my opinion. And
Ronnie Radke told me that if you don't like Bohemian Rhapsody, you need therapy, because he gave me the same example. And he's the only other one, and you guys are playing shows together.
That's right. We are. I can't wait to get out and do that. Yeah, that's why I'm surprised there was only Ronnie said that. I feel like a lot of musicians would reference that.
There have been other Queen songs too. The guys from Royal Blood cited "We Are the Champions," but it's kind of interesting to see what people think is brilliant songwriting, because for songwriters, it always means something different.
Right.
And there'll be people analyzing "Life Is But a Dream" after it comes out in June, as analyzing the songwriting in that one.
Yeah, I welcome it at this point. I'm really excited for everyone to hear it. And, going back to the way that the level that we're at in our life, I don't mean in career. I mean, the age that we're at in our life and what we've gone through and stuff. I think we're all in the same boat where we are super proud of what we did. We did everything meticulously. We took so much time on this record because we wanted to make an important record. It is very important to us. But to your point, now when everyone gets this record, it's up to them to decide. That's kind of what that's the nature of the beast. That's the nature of art. You always knew it, or we always knew it, and we always followed that aspect of life or reality of art. But now it's kind of like, I don't know what to tell you. Like,
now you got to learn how to play them live because you guys are going out on the road. We're going to see you July 19th at the Xfinity Center with AlexisOnFire.
That's right. Yeah, we're going to be out for that. We are currently in rehearsals right now already for those shows that are in July. What would you say it was? July 19th. July 19th. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. So I'm really excited about the live show. I want to reiterate on the album though, real quick. I just don't want to be one of those bands the white noise bands that comes in and says, it's the craziest, it's the best record we've done since day one. I don't know. I know that it's a great record, and I hope you like it. Is kind of where I'm at. Like, I know it's a great record. If you don't get it, that's on you.
Well, we'll talk about it over beers after the Celtics win the finals.
Oh, come on. You don't want to go back to that. Carrie, if my Lakers make it to the finals, you're not going to be happy. I'm just telling you right now.
Thank you so much for hanging out with me, Johnny. It was so great to talk to you. And we'll see you in July in Mass. And I will join you for drinks with Johnny if the finals are Celtics, Lakers for sure.
Absolutely. It could be a lot of fun.
There he is, Johnny Christ from Avenged Sevenfold. The new album, Life is But a Dream, is coming out on June 2nd, and it's available for pre-order right now. You can also see Avenged Sevenfold out on the road this summer with AlexisOnFire. That includes on July 19th at the Xfinity Center in Mansfield, Massachusetts. You'll find the link to buy tickets and the link to check out Johnny's podcast, Drinks with Johnny, in the show notes of this episode. You'll also find the link to this episode's custom playlist and make a playlist for every full-length episode of the Mistress Carrie podcast that's full of my guest music and all the artists and songs that we talked about in the interview. You'll also find all of Johnny's links, all of the links for Avenged Sevenfold, and all the Mistress Carrie links as well. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to the Mistress Carrie podcast. New full-length episodes come out every Wednesday. Plus, every weekday, you get the Sit Rep, which is all your rock news, music headlines, and entertainment updates, and you get it in around 5 minutes. Plus, you never know when we're going to release a bonus episode. You can also join me every Tuesday night at 8:30 Eastern, live on my official Facebook page for Cocktails in the War Room. And you can listen every day to the Mistress Carrie radio show. Get the details on all that and more at MistressCarrie.com. The Mistress Carrie podcast, a proud member of the Pantheon Podcast Network.
When we made our McDonald's Spicy Chicken McNuggets, you were praise hands emoji. Then we ran out, and you were streaming tears emoji. Now they're back, so you can be grinning face with sweat emoji. Order ahead on the McDonald's app.
Break out the party hat emoji, because a 6-piece Spicy Chicken McNuggets is just $2.50. And if that's not enough, try a Spicy McCrispy or a Spicy Deluxe McCrispy. And if that's not enough, there's always the sauce. Price and participation may vary.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.